Hello you beautiful legends, and welcome to Blunt Force Healing Podcast. This is episode number 760, which means 760 consecutive days of blogging and podcasting, which I'm really proud of. I mentioned that a couple of times, but I can't stress it enough for a procrastinator, a person like myself, and probably many of you that are watching or reading the blog. If you have difficulty in having focus on a certain things or keeping up with something for longer and establishing the habits, which I think many people have problems with that, so you probably feel it. It's easy for me to do the challenges or things that have a fixed amount of time to stick to, like 14 days, 30 days, up to 60 days probably. But anything beyond that quickly fades and becomes a very inconvenient. So it's very hard to sustain any habits. And over 2 years ago, 760 days ago, I decided to do something like a core habit that I will keep up and defend at all costs, at least for a long time, to make sure that I can prove to myself and to everybody around me that I can sustain something for longer. While it didn't bring me a huge change to being able to establish the habits or maintain the habits, it makes me feel like I achieved something. And it definitely improved the way in certain areas. Like, for example, in writing, I write more concisely and consistently. And my writing is way different than it was a year or 2 years ago. That's for sure. I do things in a more structured way to some extent, but they didn't translate yet to life, so I have a lot of things to do yet in that sphere. But in terms of the blog or podcast, it's definitely much more structured at the moment. In terms of podcasting, I definitely see much more confidence. I speak more carefully and think much more before spitting the words. I do that more carefully, and also I use less of the fillers. And if you don't know what fillers are, or you never actually sense that doing it in your life, it's when in between the pauses, between the words, when you use things to fill the gap in between, the silence in between, which is so when you make any noises or anything that feels like you need to do in order to maintain the flow, it's actually bad in terms of a speech. You shouldn't be doing that. It's actually better to make gaps and silence. And once you get confident with that, you become a better speaker in general. And whether you like it or not, this is how it's perceived by the audience. And I'm sure if you would look into a couple of episodes that I did before, a long time ago, where I used fillers, even though I wasn't using many of them, they were still happening, and they are still happening. Sometimes I still do or use them. But that silence thing is now much more prevalent. I'm more confident with that and more comfortable with that. So there is a lot of improvement in those terms. I'm more confident in front of camera. I don't care if I'm cringe or I do something maybe imperfect, but I no longer care, because I know that every single video that I do is improving my speaking, my presence in front of camera, and other things. So I highly advise you to start your own podcast, even when you don't have any clue about what you should be doing, you don't have guests or you don't have topics. Do what I do. Everyone can do it. Basically start journaling about your life, because everybody has life and everybody can talk about the day before, what they spend it on. You don't need to you don't need to talk about every detail, but even a short update. Mine is already 6 minutes, but you can talk about your day briefly for about 2-3 minutes, or even a minute if you want to start with. And that's still podcast, that's still journaling. And start small. Start now, get perfect later, as one of the people that I follow said, Rob Moore. This is his famous or flagship saying: start now, get perfect later. And it's true. Most of us are just overthinking and never start doing things. And we have capacity, we have potential to do a lot of good and a lot of nice stuff for us and for others. But we focus and procrastinate on things that don't matter, like getting there's a saying, getting all the ducks in a row, or making stuff perfect before we start, and that means that we will never start. So start doing something. And if you don't believe me, this podcast started with such a shitey thing and such a cringe and crappy blog posts and audio episodes that you wouldn't believe unless you go back in time. And I made it easy for you. You can check it up. There is a category of blog posts called First 7 Days or First Week. You can do that. And if you're on YouTube, then it might be a bit harder, but you can go to the episodes, the videos, and just sort them from the latest. So you will see first couple of episodes. The problem is that on YouTube there are only video episodes, so you will see the first episode that you will see on YouTube will be probably already 100 or so days in. So better to go to bluntforcehealing.wordpress.com. Most of the episodes have the address in it, and you can go to the blog and see the blog itself. And first, about 200 or more blog posts have embedded audio episodes in them, and I really recommend going to my first 7, 14, or even days, or maybe even first month. You can see how bad and how simple and how ridiculous the first couple of episodes were, but I still started and decided to polish and improve that along the way. So quick update about yesterday, because I need to deploy the sauna, or sorry, about today, because I'm kind of breaking a little bit the rule of recording it at the end of the day or the next day. I am actually recording today's update today, and before even the day ends. But I'm expecting this evening to be very quiet. Maybe somebody pops in, but I will only deploy sauna and clean up the car. So I wanted to give you an update about what happened today. So let me first fire up the sauna and get to the update quickly afterwards. So I fired up the sauna. It takes a while before it gets going, so I'll just slowly drive because I'm about a mile away from the beach, or a little bit more than that. I'll let them pass. Go, mate. Yeah, so I usually fire it up a little bit earlier and then go for about a mile. So the draft is from car going forward is going and circulating through the stove and the chimney, and kind of, making fire go really hard. So this way I'm kind of speeding up the process of firing up the kindlings, and this way it takes a bit shorter to heat the sauna up once I stop at the ramp. The weather seems to be good now, because it was okay in the morning, then it kind of started raining a lot, and now it cleared up. At least it clears up here at Rosnella, so I'm hoping for a nice evening and a nice sunset. But yeah, it started normally, kind of usual thing, dropping Julian at school, going to Rosnella to the bakery shack. I had a nice chat with the lady owner, the mother of a friend of mine that is kind of the owner of the shack. I think they are both the owners. And he wasn't there, and she was alone. There was it was very quiet at the time, so I was able to have a nice chat with her, and we chatted about the business itself on both ends. So we just passed. It was a caravan, or a kind of trailer, not the trailer, the caravan home, or whatever you call them, the camper van. And it's very narrow here, and my sauna is wide, and the caravans, or the camper vans, are also usually a bit wider, so we need to be very careful to pass each other. So yeah, so we had a nice walk, but this time we drove to Rosnella Lower, and it was very quiet, windless, and I did a couple of nice shots with the drone. One of them was actually the intro to yesterday's post, so you can check that up. It was beautiful weather today, and we had a very nice walk. We came back home, and then I used the last kind of 1 hour and a half before I had to pick Julian from school, and drove towards the Barnsmore Gap, the place that I was a day before, but it was too windy to use the drone, so I picked a couple of mushrooms and did a small hike. But today I went there and got a coffee from the new place called Bayer, just near the pub, the Video Barns, and I had a nice chat with a lady there, Abby, very lovely person. We had a nice chat about the business itself and in general, and I got the coffee from there. And as I went off and went to the car, I kind of did something weird that popped the lid off, and I hit the gear changing kind of how do you call it, the gearbox basically, and I splashed the coffee everywhere, on my seat, on the console, everything. And I put it just beside me, and I was like, ah, shit. And then when I was reaching for, I think, the paper towel or whatever, I hit it again with my elbow and spit the rest of it everywhere. So it was a disaster. And that was my day done. I spent half an hour cleaning it up, And afterwards, I was so pissed. I had very little time. I went to the place where I wanted to start footage with the drone, and as I walked out of the car, it started raining, so I didn't do anything. So I did only one story on Instagram. It was already time to go and pick Julian from school, and as I drove to Donegal, there were some roadworks, and I had to spend 10-15 minutes in the traffic. So I was already late for school, so Julian had to wait in the rain. So everything just went belly up from the moment I left for Barnsmore Gap. So that pressure to use the last 1 hour and a half caused kind of chain effect of events that completely destroyed the day. We came back home, I prepped the sauna, and Julian and Elizabeth stayed at home. They are making a dinner, and I came here. I expected to be very quiet, but I already see that the tide is just amazing. So let me finish this up, today's episode, with filming Rosnalla. I will show you how far the water can go to the ramp. And if you watched videos before, you could see that very often that beach is completely kind of sandy, flat, and there is a vast space of sand in low tide. It can go half kilometer or even up to probably half a mile in until you can step into the water beyond your ankles. And today is a high tide, and I mean it's a spring tide, so there's no beach whatsoever, and I want to show you that. So here I am with the sauna, right? And let me show you, there's nobody here at the ramp, so it's a nice change from the time of holidays or summer, where there was literally no space here. It was very hard to find it. But what is happening right now is just amazing. Have a look at that. This ramp is usually just going to the beach, and you have plenty of space and the sand just to kind of prepare you for what you're going to see. There's no beach. I'm literally at the ramp. There should be beach everywhere there, like the sand and everything, and you can see there is no sand. This is how high the tides are here at the times of the high tides. But it's a beautiful sunset, a lovely evening, so I will enjoy going to the sauna and to the ocean if nobody comes, regardless. So thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day, afternoon or evening, wherever you are on that globe, and stay tuned and see you again tomorrow.